Hello and welcome to WIPR Insights. I'm Sarah Spate, Senior Writer on WIPR and Ellis IPR and Research Analyst on WIPR Rankings. Now, you may have noticed that tomorrow is World IP Day, and the theme this year is IP and the UN Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. Now, last year's World IP Day focused on emphasising the crucial role of women in propelling innovation and creativity. So what does that mean? Well, we're here to explore that very question, particularly how pioneering women in IP can contribute towards the SDGs and whether we've made any progress over the past year. And joining me are 5 esteemed panelists who are all well placed to discuss this topic, all women who are professionals working in IP. I'm going to ask each of them to introduce themselves. First up, we have Marcia. Hi, Marcia. Great to have you with us. Could you please say a little bit about yourself?
Yes, absolutely. Hi, everyone. Marcia Chang. Happy to be here. I'm VP of IP Operations and Customer Success at TradeSpace. And we are our startup helping build an AI-enabled platform for all aspects of the IP lifecycle.
Great. Thank you, Marcia. And now to Robin.
Hi, I'm Robin Weatherhead. I'm VP of IP and Legal at a small molecule pharmaceutical company, Ventus Therapeutics. It's based in Waltham, Massachusetts, and in Montreal, Canada.
Great. Thank you, Robin. And over to Melissa. Hello, Melissa.
Hi, thank you. I'm Melissa Brand. I'm Corporate Counsel and Intellectual Property Counsel at Radius Health. Radius Health is also a small molecule drug company, and we're focused in bone health and related therapeutic areas.
Great. Thank you, Melissa. And Kenya?
Hi, everyone. So happy to be here today. My name is Kenya Williams. I'm the Global Trademark and Copyright Counsel for Thermo Fisher Scientific. The company is based in Waltham, Massachusetts, and I am in our Carlsbad, California office. I lead the company's global trademark copyright management and enforcement efforts, and the company is focused on life sciences. We're considered the world leader in serving science, and we enable our customers to make the world healthier, cleaner, and safer every day. So this is definitely a great discussion for me. I do want to say that all opinions expressed in this webinar are my own and not those of the company.
Thank you, Kenya. And finally, last but not least, hello, Nicole.
Hello, it's a pleasure to be here today. I'm IP counsel at the Broad Institute of MIT and Harvard, where I support our researchers as well as our collaborators, since we have partnerships with MIT, Harvard, and 5 local Boston hospitals. I'm also a part-time lecturer at Northeastern Law.
Great, thank you, Nicole. So Marcia, have we made any progress for women working in IP over the past year?
Yeah, I would say absolutely. I think the fact that we are all here in this webinar is a testament to that. I remember early on in my career, and I've been in IP for over 20 years now, it was hard to be in a panel or go to an IP conference and find more than a small group of women in the industry. And now I go to meetings and I see a considerable number of us, and I think that's great. So we can talk about how progress has been slow at first, but I think in the past year, we've seen a lot of encouraging signs. Last year, World IP Day, for example, right? You mentioned that was all about women in IP. I think it was great to see women inventors celebrated, but also bring to light all the gender disparity in inventorship so that we can come up with actionable ways towards solving it. And last year also saw an uptick in the number of women in high leadership positions at the USPTO. I was really excited when Director Kathy Vidal was appointed to her current role, and she was appointed under the leadership of another woman, our current Secretary of Commerce, Gina Raimondo. And early last year, Vaishali Udupa was appointed as the Commissioner of Patents. So now you have 3 very inspiring women at the very top of the leadership chain of intellectual property in the US and the government. And I think with their leadership came a lot of initiatives that are headed in the right direction, like strengthening the office's efforts to inclusive innovation empowering women entrepreneurs with a mentorship program. I'm happy to be a part of that. And you also see the women leadership in action with touches like the listening actions that Director Vidal hosted, the welcome letters that are sent out with all the filing receipts. And I think the biggest takeaway for me from this past year is that representation matters. And I think representation is crucial to empower the next generation of women. So to me, we are in a very powerful moment right now in our industry, because younger women can see a path to a fulfilling career and envision themselves in these high leadership roles.
Yeah, thanks, Marcia. I think all the statistics show there is some improvement in women represented in IP roles and on patents and innovations, for example. But I think there's some way to go. So Melissa, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, actually, I would like to kind of tack on to that. In preparing for this panel, I noticed that the USPTO, under Director Vidal's leadership, has launched a new diversity information platform, and it's got a lot of great data in there. I wish I had had more time to spend with it. But it gives you basically the demographic breakdown in different industries, men versus women, or different ethnic groups. And then it also shows, interestingly enough, the breakdown at the patent office for 2021. So I was surprised to learn that female patent examiners make up less than 30% of the examination core, and that data is from 2021. Whereas other jobs, so I imagine like leadership type positions, maybe policy positions, it's over 50% of those are held by women. And I think, as the database grows, it's important to be able to benchmark, right? Because knowledge is power. And so we talk about, are we making progress? Are we not? And by putting tools in place like this, we can start to see really, are those numbers changing? We can be cognizant of that. And the other endeavor I wanted to give a shout out to is the Lead Counsel Summit. This is a group of patent practitioners, it's litigation focused, I'll say, but it's in-house counsel and law firm counsel who have taken the initiative to launch this program, which is specifically targeting a particular shortcoming or underrepresentation in patent litigation, which is female lead trial patent counsel. So it's an initiative. They have a summit where they're training and trying to mentor, and their goal is to have 25% of each class become a lead counsel in a major action within a certain number of years of the program. So it's very ambitious. It's a really impressive slate of women who've put it together. And I think it's just really wonderful that they pick something, a concrete issue. They have measurable goals. And I think that that's a really wonderful undertaking.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Melissa. And Nicole, what are your thoughts on this?
I think we've definitely made progress in the last year. I spoke on this topic at LSPN, and afterwards, we had a discussion with the other female IP attorneys, and some of them spoke about how difficult it was for them to get to where they were and the barriers they faced. And personally, right now, I have many female leaders at my work. I report to the head of OSAP, which is a female, and I have 2 great colleagues. And having these meaningful discussions really helps in them paving the way for me and giving me the opportunity to be successful in my role.
Yeah,
so
sure.
Even at the smaller communication and team leading really does make a difference.
Yeah, so women leading women. So I'll come back to you actually, Nicole, on our next question. Over to Robin. What do you think the barriers are to creating an inclusive landscape for women in IP? And are there any barriers in particular that you have overcome or smashed down?
I think that a lot of what I'm going to say has a lot of through lines through what the others have just said, which is the barriers to women is really just seeing women in leadership roles, seeing those women aspiring to those positions. And really the barriers start pretty early on. I think all of us can say they're like early on in our kind of growth as girls to women to being IP professionals, there have been certain barriers. The first is just like getting exposed to STEM. I think that we're seeing a lot of growth in that now. We're seeing a lot of girls getting involved in STEM, and that's great. But I think back when we were girls, probably I certainly didn't have that type of like encouragement. It just kind of happened through support networks, good family, good teachers. Had an amazing organic chemistry professor who was a female that kind of pushed me in the direction of where I went. And I'm sure we all could kind of go back to our personal experiences and point out that one person. But not only that, but, you know, as a graduate student, not even knowing that the legal profession was a viable profession for women. So getting the word out to even female graduate students or females that are scientists, that yes, this is an incredibly rewarding profession, upwardly mobile, much more balanced when it comes to gender. So kind of encouraging women in that way, not only at the early stage, but in the intermediate stage, even now in kind of more of the late stage when we're all women professionals, we're attorneys, getting that support network. I personally, when I received the offer for the Ventus Therapeutics position, it was, I called one of my female network just to ask her, this is kind of a, you know, a big jump for me. What do you think? Kind of give me your advice. And I think I would have certainly have accepted the position anyway, but getting that feedback, getting that kind of confidence boost is something that we can all do for each other to kind of support each other in our kind of personal journey.
Sure. Thanks, Robin. Kenya, what do you think?
Yeah, I echo my fellow panelists' comments, and I do believe that, you know, I've been in this field for about 12 years now, and from when I started to now, I have definitely seen progression with regard to women entering the field, staying in the field, getting into leadership roles in the field. In fact, the chief IP counsel of my company is a woman. So that's very encouraging to start. And so, you know, that definitely was something that I looked at when moving into this role that was very encouraging to me. But, you know, just to throw a few statistics out there, we know that the legal profession is still predominantly male. Looking at some ABA, some American Bar Association statistics, for instance, back in 2020, looking at, for instance, USPTO, they said 22% of attorneys and agents registered before the USPTO were women. Now, since 2020, it seems like the USPTO has definitely initiated a lot of programs and different things to try to encourage women to become a part of the US patent and trademark system, but we still have a long way to go. We know that a lot of, you know, being in the STEM field is where it begins, especially with regard to being an IP attorney. We have right now, I think 2021, the National Center for Science and Engineering statistics say that 35% of STEM occupations were filled by women. Many IP lawyers started out as scientists or engineers prior to going to law school. So in order to increase the number of IP lawyers, we are going to have to start with STEM. And so we still have a little bit of ways to go, but I do feel encouraged by the actions that have been taken by the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, other trademark offices around the world. The World Intellectual Property Organization has also been at the helm of increasing the numbers of women in this field. And then organizations like, you know, going back to like the UN have made, with their 17 goals, have made gender equality and empowering women a goal as well. So I think definitely we're seeing a lot of promising progress. We just have to keep the momentum going. We can't rest on our laurels and say, hey, you know, we've got, you know, women here and women there. Okay, we are okay now. We just have to keep going, because we do see that although women usually represent more than at least 50%, if not more than 50% of the population, we're definitely well under that number with respect to many professions, particularly the legal profession, particularly STEM. And then when you combine legal and STEM, the numbers are even more, startlingly different from those of our male counterparts.
Yeah, thanks, Kenya. And we're going to return to STEM-related fields in a moment, but I'd just like to hear what Nicole has to say about barriers to creating an inclusive landscape for women in IP, and whether you, Nicole, have smashed any barriers down.
Yes, thank you. I think one of the key things I've learned is that women do have to support each other. For instance, when I was still working at a firm, I noticed that one of the partners was very abrupt with just even the executive assistant. It didn't even come from STEM, but as that came out to the attorneys as well. And sometimes if you're in a higher leadership position, it would make sense to go speak to the attorney, the partner, and speak your concerns regarding how he's treating or how she's treating the other attorney or even the executive assistant. We all have to be out to help each other and build each other up. And I don't see that we can do that without advocating for each other.
Yeah, thank you, Nicole. Absolutely. And so just going back to Kenya and what you were saying about the STEM subjects, do you think there are enough opportunities available in both innovation and IP roles for women, especially in those STEM-related fields such as technology, engineering, healthcare, and so on?
Yes, thank you for that question. I do believe there are opportunities available. The tricky part is they're available to everyone. We know that, it's not legal to say, okay, we're going to give this opportunity to this group, but are those opportunities being given to women? Are women being considered for those opportunities? Are our skill sets being honed and being developed to the point where we're ready for those types of positions later on? I still think that we do have some work. Now, again, we're all here. There were opportunities. I myself have a background in biological sciences. I did cancer research. I, was in the scientific research field, at science education research. So I've always been a STEM and a science person. I can't say that I had a lot of female mentors coming up in this area. Most of my mentors and most of the people I feel like who did give me opportunities were men, and they were in a position to give these opportunities to me. And so in turn, I have tried to be in a position and use whatever position I'm in to provide those opportunities to not just women, but everyone, all qualified individuals, but not overlooking the possibility that a woman could be in certain positions. So yes, I think that there are these opportunities available. We do just have to, since we see it as professionals in this field, we should be encouraging the women and even the girls who are in, the elementary, middle school, and high school to take advantage of these opportunities. And I hear a lot about, the pipeline is not full. Well, it's our responsibility as women in this field to help fill that pipeline as well. So, to whatever extent we can help fill that pipeline and help encourage other women along the way, we should be doing that. Those opportunities are available. We do need to make sure they're visible to women. When we hear about things, we need to share those, like has been done already on this call, and any other opportunities that we know about, so that we can continue to be considered for and fill those roles. So I am encouraged.
Oh, well, that's great news. Thank you, Kenya. Marcia, what are your thoughts on this? And do you have experience of this particular subject of opportunities available in innovation and IP for women, especially in those STEM subjects that we referred to?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a background in electrical engineering, and I know I started out very positive in the beginning of a conversation talking about all the progress that we have made in the past year. But I think this is an area where we have a long way to go. The STEM gap is alive and well. And I think we're very far away, and research shows that we are far away from resembling any parity in the STEM fields. I think if you look at the data, it's not that great. I know that the Association of American Association of University Women, they have done a lot of research in STEM, tracking it for over a decade now. And while if you look at the life sciences area, the numbers are better. I think engineering, computer science to a certain extent, although CS, right, is the major to go to these days, those fields are still struggling to attract more women. And I think that if you look at the research, it takes much more than just trying to recruit women. You have to do programs to make them stick to the programs, right? To make them stick to those fields. And there's one example that was cited in a study that I saw of Harvey Mudd College, where they were able to increase the percentage of women graduating in computer science from 12% to 40% in 5 years by introducing some changes in their curriculum to make computer science more appealing and introduce it at the college level versus, say, kids that grew up programming that may not have been the experience of a lot of women that entered those programs as college students, right? And also sponsoring the women undergraduates to attend women-led conferences, talk about representation again, right? And offering them opportunities to do research early on. And they were very successful, so much so that they are now a model in computer science education, and they are even a case study in the Harvard Kennedy School. So, and like what Kenya said, right, I think when it comes to opportunities, we have to start early. We have to start at elementary school. We have to get these programs going. Like I know the Girl Scouts has an IP patch for Girl Scout troops, and I think that's outstanding, to introduce intellectual property to different girls at different ages of their Girl Scouts development, but also like organizations like Girls Who Code, right, and all the groups trying to introduce girls to computer science and robotics. I think that those are crucial so that girls early on can see how much fun and rewarding those careers can be, and having those role models along the way to be able to count on for support when we need them, right, in our careers, when we are looking for that mentor that can tell us, yeah, I think this is a good opportunity for you to take. We like to have our network. So the more, the merrier.
Excellent. Thank you, Marcia. Nicole, what would you like to add to that?
I just wanted to discuss some statistics about females and patent inventions. So according to WIPO, women involved in inventions accounted for only 23%, while about 96% of males were involved in other inventions between 1999 and 2020. That meant that women represented only 13% of all listed inventors. And in the last year, these numbers have increased, with 31% of women being involved in invention. And thus, women inventorship rose to 16%. Further, also noted that more women were prevalent in academia, which accounted for 21%, compared to 14% in industry. Having these discussions and ensuring equality is critical, and having women being more involved in STEM and IP. And if we continue these conversations, WIPO analyzed that the trends over the next 5 years, and they theorize that women inventors will rise to about 50% if the inclusion conditions seen in the past 5 years continue to progress.
Thank you, Nicole. Yeah, some of the stats are still quite worrying. I mean, I came across one from World Intellectual Property Organization that said that gender parity in international patenting will only be achieved in 2061. I mean, that's nearly 4 decades away. So we've got some work to do. Now, before we go on, we have questions coming in. And I'd just like to encourage the audience to ask questions. We are taking questions, and certainly at the end. So if you think of anything, burning question you'd like to ask one of our panelists, please tell us. There is a question which I'd like to put to the panelists before we move on, because it's related to what we've been talking about. What are the initiatives you have seen that help with this work? For instance, I volunteer with the organisation ADAPT. Have you done work with this organisation or similar ones to help support DEI initiatives in IP? And which initiatives are missing? So who would like to answer this question? Anybody on the panel would like to answer this question?
I can start. I guess maybe I'm reflecting that maybe I should be doing more. So I appreciate the question coming in. I am a vice chair of the industry committee with the PTAB Bar Association. So that's Patent Trial and Appeal Board, the Bar Association for that. It's a USPTO focused group. And they do put out statistics on the number of females who have speaking roles in PTAB trials. So they're monitoring that. And there are initiatives there to train younger, or maybe not younger, but people who are earlier in their legal careers. So women or anybody who needs extra fostering to try to get them into those positions. So there are definitely efforts there. Reflecting on the last part, what are the initiatives missing? I don't know if I can say it from an organizational perspective, but what I have, I think, observed is maybe there's not as much follow through, right? Like, so one of the recommendations I've heard in the past is like, oh, make sure you give a person a shout out. And that's great. And that's wonderful. And that's, people have done that for me in my career, and it's been immensely helpful. But then maybe continue forward, reaching out to that person, or, continue supporting them. Don't make it just like a one-time, okay, I checked the box sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I can just add to that, because that's exactly what I was thinking of, the follow through, right? And let me give you an example. I mean, not so much in the context of IP, but I've been a part of organizations that try to help disadvantaged students to go through programs in high school so that they can make that transition into great colleges and get those scholarships and so on. But then after that, there's really a gap, right? There's not much to help them. And it seems like a lot of those students get lost in the way. And later on, when you see the numbers in the workplace, right, you don't see them as much getting those opportunities or translating them into successful career outcomes, right? So I think that's one gap. And in terms of initiatives, I think the Intellectual Property Owners Organization has a Women in IP committee that I joined this year. And I think, what's really important is really this one-on-one mentorship and the network of women empowering each other. And I think that goes a long way in helping bridge the gap. And I've heard of the organization ADAPT. I know they are doing outstanding work, trying to get, more diversity in IP through, programs with law school students. And there are other programs like that. And I think the more of these programs that we have, the better. But again, the follow through is, I think, what's missing.
Yeah, I've been in an organization where they've taken law school interns in, and it was restricted to a diverse group of law students. And that's great. And it almost seems like there is a little bit of follow through with that organization, because I've seen some of those law students who have gone through that internship be hired at other pharmaceutical companies, as well as being considered for roles at that particular company. So that maybe integrating kind of a diverse internship group in the IP kind of organization is something that we could do.
Yeah. And if I just share one story that just came to mind here, I remember when I was working in-house at HP Hewlett-Packard, we did this program where we brought in some high school students for a day in the life of, an IP attorney, where we gave them, little games and instructions on different aspects of IP. And I remember doing this Jeopardy-like game, asking them questions, is this a copyright? Is this a trademark? And so forth. And the kids, they were very, very bright students, and they were getting all the questions right when it came to current at the time popular culture. But then they were missing, on questions that related to, say, Dr. Seuss books or some other books that they were not exposed to when they were young. And that really opened my eyes as to how crucial it is to get kids involved early on in all the kinds of programs that can help them succeed later in life.
I'm part of a Girl You Might Know Foundation, and for our, we're an organization that's female led, and we actually have tutorials of different topics in the legal field, including IP. I've done one of IP survey, so we hit all 4 types of IP. We also help entrepreneurs by giving contracted templates and advice, and we really strive to make the community more aware of what's going on in the current legal field, and that's including what's going on with the Federal Trade Commission that just passed banning non-competes, and that even said to have a huge effect on patent law, because employees and scientists are not going to be stuck in an institution. They're going to be allowed to freely flow based on their needs and their scientific innovations that they want to pursue. So I think that having discussions and having these learning and mentorship, as Marcia said, is really critical, because the younger generation will never be exposed if we aren't vocal in what we know already and give them the platform to learn early on.
I just want to echo what my panelists said. And also, I've been a member of an organization called CMCP for a number of years now, California Minority Council Program. There is a heavy focus on women and, helping women to be successful in this profession. I'm also looking to be involved in an organization called Miss JD, which is aimed at law students. It's aimed at helping women soon to be lawyers enter the profession, or who would like to be lawyers, or who would like to go to law school, even maybe pre-law, to enter this profession and to have mentorship and programming throughout. So that's an organization I just became aware of and familiar with, and I'm looking to get involved in that organization too. So I really appreciate this question, because we are here all talking about women in this profession. And, I think we all echo the fact that, we are doing things, but we could be doing more, and there's more to be done. So we will be taking part in those initiatives in the future. So, looking forward to that.
Yeah, thank you. I think we can take hope from the fact that these initiatives actually exist. So moving on to the next discussion point. Now, just going back to the Sustainable Development Goals, which I mentioned at the start of this webinar. So the theme of World IP Day this year is IP and the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Now, there are 17 of these goals, including gender equality, but there's also an array of goals aimed at creating a cleaner, greener planet. So with this in mind, are women well placed to lead on this, and why? And Melissa, would you like to kick off on this one?
Sure. Yeah, I really appreciated having the opportunity to reflect on this. I think I get so, bogged down into patent strategy and things like that I don't often get enough time to reflect on questions like this. The way I kind of think of it is two-pronged. So a lot of these goals and the sub-targets that Sarah mentioned, they are targeted at women. So some, for example, are about increasing the productivity of women small food producers, reducing maternal mortality rate, reducing violence against women. And I think, who better to speak and lead for these women targeted initiatives than women themselves. And it brought to mind, I think probably most everybody's seen this study, but there was a study conducted that showed that office temperatures are set based off of basically the metabolic rate of a 154-pound man or something. So it's based off men. And because of that, women sit in offices that are cold. And additionally, though, it leads to excess energy waste and additional carbon emissions that we don't need to have. So I think it's just like a nice example of, maybe if women had been involved, or, the calculation had been taken women into account more, which probably would have happened if women were involved, we'd be in a better situation there. The other thing I looked into is I read a study that was conducted of women in the top, I think, 200 big law firms. And it was targeting basically what makes them happy about their job, what doesn't, what could be improved. And one of the things that came out is that women in this survey said that they wanted to hold positions of visibility and influence. And that was one of the recommendations to increase that. And I think, ambitious goals like the SDGs align with that, right? So the study showed that women want to be visible, they want to do important work, and I think that really aligns well with leading on these types of initiatives.
Thank you, Melissa. Marcia, why are women well placed to lead on these goals, and why?
Yeah, I agree with everything that Melissa said there. And I think, we women, without being too stereotypical, we bring our nurturing, caring, and compassionate ways, right, to our daily lives. And that includes our work and how we go about it. Without, again, being stereotypical, I think we tend to care a lot about humanity and achieving a level of conflict-free resolution that really could benefit us in IP and elsewhere, right? And when it comes to helping achieve the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, this is where we can truly shine, right? Not just in the programs that directly benefit women, but that benefit everyone. And we can help mediate, again, conflict-free, mediate when needed, and really drive the agenda forward, because I think it's time to talk solutions. And I think it's time to bring everyone to the table and fix all the issues that are brought to light in the Sustainable Development Goals, descriptions and agenda and so forth. And I think if we all work together, and again, women have to be a big part of that because of our, personalities and what we can bring to the table, I think we, will be much better off for it.
Thank you, Marcia. Kenya, would you agree with that?
I definitely do agree with both of the earlier comments. Women are well positioned to lead on this because we are, just in general, we know the statistics say we're not always fully resourced with things. We don't always have all of the tools and resources sometimes that our male counterparts do in certain situations. And I think just historically, we've been used to sort of making do with less. And in this way, we're uniquely positioned to use these skills to sort of be creative. The other thing is, you're not going to lose with more diversity in the room. So statistics say the more diversity of thought you have in the room, whether that's gender diversity, ethnic diversity, whatever types of diversity you can think of, you're going to come up with better ideas. You're going to be more creative. There's going to be more productivity coming out of that. The statistics are there. So the more diversity of thought you have in the room, the better. And we need all the creative minds we can get to accomplish this aggressive set of goals. And so, women are definitely well positioned to lead on this for that reason.
Great, thank you, Kenya. I'm just thinking we're going to come on to why women are, what women particularly bring to that. But does Robin and Nicole, do you have anything to add to that before we move on?
No, I just agree with everything that's been said. It's absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so, Robin, can you give any examples of what you or your company is doing that feeds into the Sustainable Development Goals, and what role women are playing in that.
Yeah. So as a small molecule company, we're looking into green chemistry. So that's like trying to produce our product in a more cleaner way. But that's just a small, that's kind of this early kind of endeavor. But the one big thing that I have seen Ventus emphasize is female empowerment. We have, I'd say almost, we're a small company, about less than 100 people, and a good half of that are female. There are 2 out of the 6 members of the C-suite are female. We have several female board members. And then in the kind of leadership roles of the VP and senior level, a solid 50% are female. So there's this emphasis on, like I said, female empowerment at the company, which is one of the reasons why I joined the company, is just seeing that acceptance.
Great. And Nicole, what can you give any examples?
Yes, so my current institution is very cognizant of the environmental challenges that waste causes, especially in the research field. So in every room, whether it's in offices or in the kitchen, we have compost, we have recycling, and we have trash bins. We're very aware of how to properly dispose of waste to ensure that our carbon footprint remains minimal. We also had a drive recently where we could bring our older electronics and batteries, and they would assist us in making sure that they were disposed of properly and recycled. And they give us additional avenues to be cognizant at home. They also, one of the sustainability goals is partnerships, fostering innovation. And as I said previously, we have partnerships throughout the Boston community, whether it's MIT and Harvard or the 5 hospitals. And we really strive for publication and ensuring that our science gets out there and helps promotes healthier living as well, which is another sustainability goal that the UN outlines. And that comes from the research that we're doing to ensure that patients get these therapies, or whether we're just looking into the disease and how it progresses and the phenotypes. We're actively working to make sure that the lives that where we are supporting are met. Another thing that my company does that's for healthy living is they give us a stipend for a bicycle. They want to promote healthier living and to get us out there, outside, and keeping moving so that we are ensuring we are healthy and able to be thriving, not only in our career, but our personal life as well.
Yeah, and I think it only makes sense for companies and organizations that are working on sustainable innovations to be practicing what they preach. So that's really good news. Melissa.
Yeah, thanks. I think my comments align very well with the last 2 sets of comments. We too, at my company, we have a lot of females in leadership positions. So our general counsel, our chief financial officer, our chief business officer are all women. And I think that drives a lot of focus towards women and women's health issues. I think when you have powerful women and you're looking at development opportunities, of course, we do the market assessments, and that's, really the business case is what drives it. But I really think having powerful women involved in these decisions maybe helps bring more therapies to women, which is, part of the sustainable development goals as well. We're a remote company, and we've really, under the financial leadership of our CFO, we are reducing unnecessary travel. So, reducing the carbon emissions that way. So yeah, I think, also we track our carbon footprint as well. So we don't actually manufacture our products. They're manufactured by third parties, but we have started assessing the carbon footprint and seeing what we can do to bring those numbers even lower.
Fabulous. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Melissa. So before I move on to two more questions that I'd like to ask the panel, just want to encourage the audience to ask questions. If you have a burning question you'd like to ask the panelists, now's your chance. So probably in the next 5 minutes or so, if there are any questions, we will address them. So moving on to my next question. Referencing the buzzwords of this year's World IP Day theme, which are innovation and creativity, what are the unique qualities that women bring to IP teams in terms of innovation and creativity? Kenya.
Thank you for that question. And these qualities aren't always just unique to women, but we do bring a lot of this with us, a lot of compassion, a lot of just drive and creativity. Like I said before, creativity. One of my favorite sayings is necessity is the mother of invention. Because when you don't have a whole lot of resources or you have to work with less, I didn't look to see what the statistic was, but looking at how much funding, women-led projects get versus, those led by our male counterparts. I think there are some statistics out there that we could look up that say, look at women-led companies, how much VC funding we get versus the male-led companies. So we're often in a position where we do have to do more with less, or at least do a comparable amount with less. And so I think, I myself, speaking for myself, I've always tended to be very creative. I've always looked at ways to do things without having to hit the budgets too hard, using available tools, using available resources. So I just think women, we tend to be very industrious. And then I also wanted to I looked at a McKinsey & Company report from December of last year that said, so just as an incentive to bring women on, the top 25%, the companies that were in the top 25% for gender diversity of their boards are 27% more likely to perform better financially than companies in the bottom 25% for board diversity. So, if you're just looking at, the bottom line, diversity helps you make more money, bottom line. And the qualities we bring are, like I said, just the creativity, the industriousness, the compassion, the, multitask. We are often put in positions where we do have to multitask. Many women are in a position of being primary caregivers for children or for elderly parents. And so we're just usually placed in a position where we're utilizing those skill sets more. And that benefits companies because we bring those into the workplace as well. So.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kenya. Marcia.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think Kenya touched on a lot of the great qualities that we bring to the table. If I were to add anything, I touched upon, the conflict-free resolution aspects of how women tend to, work and operate. And I think that help us be more collaborative and be more of that team player in the work environment. And when solving problems, bringing those diverse perspectives, thinking outside the box, I think those are all qualities that help us. And Kenny, you touched on multitasking. Yeah, completely agree with that, right? We are brains. I mean, you have to think about so many things at once in our personal lives, in our work lives, and so forth. And also, I think an important aspect is because we faced obstacles in our careers that we are all talking about here, I think in general, we've developed this thick skin and we tend to be resilient. And when solving problems, whether, in the technical context or in the business context or in the operational context, we are going to push through hard. And we are going to try to get to it. And we are going to leverage our perspectives and our collaborative, nurturing, aspects of our personalities to really tackle those challenges. So, in the numbers that Kenya shared, I mean, right, we could end there, right? I mean, that's very, very powerful. So, yeah.
Thank you, Marcia. Nicole, what do you think?
I want to echo the other panelists, and I also want to bring my unique experiences. So I came from an all-male team prior to joining the Broad, and I felt as if my colleagues had better relationships and were giving some better tasks because of it, because you're more aligned with that of your manager, your coworkers. Where here, where I am, I have a lot of female leads, and I had the opportunity to ask for mentorship, and they have that nurturing and compassion. As I only have been at the Broad for about a little over a month, and I know that I can go to my colleagues with questions because it's a larger institution, and I want to make sure that I'm following the correct steps and protocols, and having compassionate and strong women on the team that are able to assist me is really critical in my professional growth. And I also try to do that as well to my scientists. So going back to the nurturing, I like to form these unique bonds where I try to be like their honorary member, not just the legal member. And so by doing that, I have them teach me the science and I teach them the law. And it really opens them up to come speak with me, whether they're facing an issue and the linker they're using isn't working. Can I look into the patent landscape? Can I find us a different linker? Or what about if they make a mistake? They sent something out that they shouldn't have. Well, they know they can come to me and we'll fix the problem, and we'll look at this as a learning example. And it's not about calling them out, but ensuring the protocols are there and that trust and team building is there. And there were multiple times where there were mistakes. They sent something out. We didn't file provision application, but we had a day or so before it got delivered. We worked hard to get the data and to get an application on file before the deadline, so it wouldn't be considered a privileged disclosure. So that trust really did help me with my scientists and ensuring that that the company was protected, and so was their assets.
Thank you, Nicole. Before we move on, we do actually have a question which I would like to put to the panel. What are our male colleagues doing to support us? And what practical things should we be asking them to do? Who would like to have answering that?
I can start off. I was actually having a conversation with somebody on our leadership team today, not specifically about actions males can take, but just, something she said really struck me is that people just need to say good job more and need to acknowledge you to other people as well, more so, right? And I think the point she was making was, if things are going fine and well, nobody really tends to say anything unless oh, maybe you just closed a huge deal or something like that. But if especially if you're just resolving a dispute where no money is on the line or, things of this nature. And I think, since a lot of men hold positions of power and persuasion, I think that if we can ask them more to say, hey, Melissa just did a really good job on this, or, so-and-so, and to do it consistently. So not in an insincere way, because I don't think insincere praise is good. I think it's harmful. But to remember to do that too. Like we were talking about earlier in the follow through, do it and don't do it just as a check box of oh yeah, I complimented Melissa once this year, done, I'll do it again in 2025.
Great. Thank you, Melissa. So just unless anybody's got anything to say on that question.
I was just going to add that just, speaking up for us when we're not in the room, we're not always sitting around the board table. And so if our male counterparts could, bring us up and help us out in a positive light in a room that we're not able to be in, that helps us as well. So, and, not just the direct contact and compliments to us, but also indirectly sort of, helping to remove barriers. If you see if you see things that are just, I mean, I'm sure a lot of things are said behind closed doors. And if you can just be our ally and be on our side when you're in the room and we're not, that would be very helpful too.
And I would add to that, that not only that, like when we're not in the room, but when we are in the room, I mean, we're in positions of power at our companies where, you know, during the promotion process, is there a woman that we see that has ambition and she's like really doing great job, but nobody is being the squeaky wheel for her? We should be that person.
Thank you, Robin. So I'm going to go on to my final question. We do have one more question from a member of the audience to answer, and the panel will answer that for you shortly. So thank you for that. My final question is, what do you think that we can do to ensure equal access for the next generation of women in IP? Nicole.
So ensuring equal access for the next generation of women is critical. And when I was first starting out, it was actually my first in-house experience. I had the opportunity for my manager to actually fight for me. So originally I was hired as a legal intern. I was still in law school. So I was making $15 an hour. And when it came to renew my contract and whether they wanted, and because they did want to keep me, she fought with HRs for me to get better compensation to those of my other counterparts, because I wasn't just an intern, I wasn't just in law school. I had more like FTO experience, and I did the majority of the freedom to operate searches, and she really pushed for me. And I know discussing salaries, it can always be taboo, but if we as managers fight for our own employees, then they're going to be able to have the same experiences and bring it to the next generation, because that's something that stuck with me throughout my entire legal career, and how I felt that she fought for me, because I brought a meaningful workload to the team that could get executed timely and professionally. And I do that even with my scientists now, because I remember how it felt. So one of my female scientists at my old company was interested in IP law. So instead of going through the formal mentorship process that we had at the company, my former company, I decided to take it on myself to meet with her for 1 hour every 2 weeks. And we would cover one topic of IP law. I would have some slides for her, and I would make examples to show her how her work was intertwined with patent law, and also what to expect. Going from a scientific career to a legal career, is very different, and it's very difficult. And because you're adding this extra layer of education, you're fine. As my panelists have said, it's highly predominant in male role. And so if we promote women to go forward with it and how we overcame their barriers, that will help them ease through the path that we didn't have.
Thank you, Nicole. Just aware of time. So for those watching, we may just go a couple of minutes over the hour. So please stay with us because we're going to get to the final question that we have from the audience. Just wanted to ask Robin and Melissa, what do you think to that my last question?
Yeah, Melissa, do you want to go?
Sure, I'll be brief. I think one of the things that we can do is review long-standing policies, whether they're like formal or not. And the example I'll give is I worked at a company that had a very hardcore in-person policy. This was before the pandemic, but they used to even take attendance. And I was struggling with pregnancy and terrible morning sickness, and I didn't want to have a chat with my boss about that particular element. So I pushed and I said, look, I think I deserve to work from home 1 day a week. And here's all the reason why. You know, I wrote up a proposal, and I was able to get around that policy. And like, they didn't know that they were doing me a solid because I was struggling with pregnancy. And so I think there's other elements, like, you know, I've heard of every year at this law firm, the marketing budget goes to this golf membership, you know, things like that have just always been the way. And rethinking those long-standing things, policies or practices, I think can be really important.
I would add that certain policies, like, you know, we've gone through COVID, we kind of know the drill about working from home, giving women the flexibility when they need it to work from home. Considering that, like, a lot of women are, as Kenya said, caregivers of children and adults, have a little bit more complicated lives sometimes, and that will help.
Thank you. And just going to our audience question, how do you keep women in your field once they start? Who would like to answer that question for us?
I think we can start by doing some of the things that my fellow panelists said in response to the previous question. You know, providing opportunities, looking at policies to make sure that they're not disproportionately negatively affecting women. Because, you know, as we probably all know women who have been in the legal profession and have left, and they're happy about leaving because they're like, okay, I don't have to do those hours. I can work from home. I can have flexibility. So if we can implement more policies that are more conducive to making an environment where women will be able to stay, not that we wouldn't want to, but, you know, it's more about necessity sometimes for us to leave the profession. But if we change the policy so that there is some flexibility, then this might encourage more women to stay in our field and to feel like it is a viable long-term career option.
And hopefully we're going to achieve that goal eventually, certainly if we're going to meet these sustainable development goals. Did anyone have anything to add to that?
I guess just reiterating, mentoring, reaching out to younger women that are fresh in their careers, as well as women, for us, being mentored, reaching out to more senior women to have them encourage us.
Thank you. Well, that's all we have time for today. It's been fascinating to hear your thoughts on in this webinar. So my thanks to our speakers, Marcia, Melissa, Kenya, Nicole, and Robin.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you so much.
And thank you to TradeSpace for supporting this webinar. And thanks to everyone watching for tuning in. Look out for more WIPR Insights webinars. There are many to choose from, all related to IP. So it's now time to say goodbye from our speakers. Thanks again.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
And it's